I'm going to challenge the jurisdiction and demand that delegation of authority from Congress be produced as proof of their judicial power. Otherwise, I'm going to act as the judge over my estate. Why can't I?
Yes, why?
That's it. The 10th Amendment says the powers not delegated are reserved to the people. Those powers are the powers to make law, the powers to interpret and apply the law, and the power to enforce law. So now, in order for you to exercise those powers, you have to be competent. And in order for you to be competent, you have to study, starting with words. And then you have to be willing to be tested, because they're still in your estate. Not only that, Holy Quran and the Moorish Science Temple of America states in Article 1, not Article 1, in Chapter 1, the creation and fall of man. It says, perfected man must pass through all the ways of life. And so a cardinal nature was full manifest, a nature that sprang forth from fleshly things. Without a foe, a soldier never knows his strength, and thought must be developed by the exercise of strength. And so this cardinal nature soon became a foe that man must fight, that he might be the strength of Allah made manifest. Let everything living thing stand still and hear. That means meditate. Man is the Lord of all the plane of manifest, of protoplasm, of mineral, of plant, of beast. But he gave up his birthrights just to gratify his lower self. But man will regain his lost estate, his heritage, but he must do it in a conflict that cannot be told in words. Yea, he must suffer trials and temptations manyfold. So guess what? Everybody claiming that they want to exercise their birthright to travel. They want to exercise their birthright to claim their land by aboriginal title, because you have a right to do that. The aboriginal title, for all those that don't know, you won't know by me telling you, I'm going to tell you anyway, but you still want to study it. The aboriginal titles are El, Bay, Al, Day, and Ali. Those are the aboriginal titles to this land. That's why the Constitution says that the United States can't grant any title of nobility, because they don't have the power to do so. You do. The title of nobility is El, Bay, Al, Day, and Ali. That's the title of the land. In nature, they're called allodial title, but particularly aboriginal title trumps allodial title, because you can gain allodial title to property by way of gold or silver coins. But let an aboriginal come and make claim to that property by way of aboriginal title. You can't buy, sell, or transfer aboriginal title. You can only inherit it. So that's the claim. That's the claim. And then it says in chapter 1, man will be fully saved, redeemed, perfected by the things he suffers on the plane of flesh and on the plane of soul. So that means we got to go through some suffering. That means we got to get hit. We got to get punched in the face so that we can know what that feels like. Now, I'm sure a lot of us have been punched in the face physically and punched in the face by these foreign policy enforcers, state's attorneys, district attorneys, pretend judge, and all of them. But if you ain't learned from that punch, meaning you learn defense, then guess what's going to happen? You're going to get punched in the face again. So we must learn, in the words of Brother Bruce Lee, we must learn how to lose, so that in the loss, you learn the lesson. So now it's not a loss. It's called a lesson, because you gain. That's also called alchemy, turning base metal into gold, turning a baseless situation that caused you to be injured into gold, into something that is valuable that you can now learn from and turn around and fight them again. And you know damn well they can't use that same move on you, because you know how to defend yourself now. So you would not learn how to properly exercise your right to travel. You will not learn how to properly exercise your right to claim land. No, you will learn how to defend it first. Learn how to defend your birthright before you exercise it. That's smart. If anybody ever been in a fight, you ever been in boxing? I've been in boxing. You ever been in boxing, taekwondo, any form of martial art? First thing you learn how to do is, don't, excuse my French. First thing you learn how to do is get your ass kicked, so that you can know what a kick feels like and what a punch feels like. So when you deliver that punch or deliver that kick, you know the effects of it. It won't be a surprise because you've been kicked and punched before. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's why Noble Drew Ali put in chapter 1 that our save, we're not saved. What am I trying to say? What's the word? Salvation. Our salvation, our redemption, and our perfection comes by the things we go through, the things we suffer, the conflict that cannot be told in words because it can only be experienced. You can't speak on things or teach things that you yourself have not done.
True.
And if you do, you're in error of in violation of law, divine law, which is what the 7 articles in the Constitution are representing, divine law, which came from our forefathers who civilized the whole planet. And we are who they were, without doubt or contradiction. We're back. We just have to learn these first we got to learn the laws of ourselves. That's our Constitution. That's the natal chart, sun, moon, the sun sign, the moon sign, and the rising sign. So we have to know astrology. We have to know what religion really means. Religion means to bind back. So how do we bind back? Study astrology. That's how you bind back. So that's the true religion. Then we have to learn our place within our government, which is the people. So if you're an L, you know that those are the ones that make law. If you're a Bay, obey the law. Those are the ones that interpret and imply the law.
Okay.
So the Bays will come under the judicial branch. The L's will come under the the legislative branch. Ali, that is the executive. Did I say exactly? The L's come under the legislative, yeah, and Ali is the executive. And that's why Drew Ali said that you can't just call yourself Ali. That title has to be granted upon you.
A lot of people do call themselves that, though.
Yeah, and they're going to have to answer for it. Look, we are the Lodial. We've been free in our imagination this whole time. That's where the freedom is. The freedom is not on the third dimension. The freedom is in the imagination. That's where things are created.
Dimensions, yeah. In
Yes.
theory, well, how about people who select? I mean, I've seen some appellations where they have everything. They may have three tiles of nobility. They're L Bay, Ali, L Bay.
Well, they're gonna have. Look, well, here's the thing to that. You know, God means to invoke, to call upon, to implore, or to pour out.
Yeah.
So anything you're invoking, you're calling upon, guess what it's going to do? It's going to come right back to you. And it's going to be done in a conflict that cannot be told in words. So anything you say will be used either for you or against you. That's why with the Bible, it says, for by your words, you will be justified. And by your words, you will be condemned. By your words.
Right, what you said.
And the law doesn't change.
Now, a lot of people, I've seen a question, at least one question in the chat of where a person asked, and I know it's on the minds of others. People are being, since we're now in overtime now, I'm going to ask some other questions. People are asking and concerned about what do they do on their jobs if they're being forced to take the V.
Being forced to take the V?
Yep.
How's study the treaty, because remember, what is your status? Status is your state, your standing, your condition, and it also includes your social position. Your status identifies your rights, your duties, your capacities and your incapacities. And that is what determines you to a given class. So if you're at a job, you're at that job by way of what? Contract. For what? Commerce, right? Commercial transaction. Now, if that job is telling you, oh yeah, you got to take the V, well, that sounds like a dispute. To me, that sounds like a dispute. Now, it's a dispute with this commercial transaction. Where do we go in the treaty? Because that employer is claiming to be a citizen of the United States. You're more. And this is a civil dispute, so that means Article 20 applies. So you would enforce Article 20 by drafting a complaint and invoking consular jurisdiction. Now, whether it be at a job or you're doing commercial transactions with a prison or a detention center or anywhere, you are always supposed to have on your vessel, which includes your body, a signal. So what's your signal? What is the definition of signal? A signal is a display of lights or a flag. And then it says, or pass. A pass is a license or a permission, such as a passport, a permission to passport. So you'll either have a signal or a pass. And that is what's given to all vessels belonging to both parties. What parties? The United States of North America and the Moroccan Empire, by which they are to be known when they meet at sea. So whenever you're doing business or commerce with anyone, including your Job, you make sure they have a copy of this treaty. Why not? Because this is the law of the land. This is the supreme law of the land. Anything to the Article 6. Article 6. Where we go? Where we at? Article 6. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary, notwithstanding, not with status. It has no standing in law. So their policy for Walmart, you work at Walmart, and Walmart like, you got to take the V in order to keep working here, enforce consular jurisdiction. That's the purpose of this manual. This is foreign policy. Foreign policy, look. Foreign policy.
That's called, we can get that on it's available.
It is
online.
It is available right here on Google. When you Google Consular Notification and Access PDF, it'll pop right up, travel.state.gov. You can click it. And this is the United States Department of State's website. And it's the second one right here. Now, of course, our information would not be on contact info for foreign embassies and consulates, because when you read the manual, they have what is called mandatory countries and non-mandatory countries. Let me show you right here. We're going to go to their flow chart. This is very important for everyone exercising consular jurisdiction already. You're supposed to be studying this, not enforcing it. This is their policy. This is how they are to deal with us, according to treaty obligation. So right here, arresting a non-U.S. citizen, consular notification process. Question, are you a U.S. citizen? Answer, yes, I am a U.S. citizen. You stop right there. No further action required. If it's no, I am not a U.S. citizen, the next flow is, are you a national of one of these countries? All of these countries are what you call mandatory countries, meaning it is mandatory for these the embassies and consulates of these countries to be notified, whether the national wants the country to be notified or not. They have to notify these countries. And if it's no, then it says inform detainee without delay that he or she may have consulate notified of arrest or detention. So this is the flow chart. This is how they deal with people that are not U.S. citizens. And don't call the number Don't email them. This is all they're going to talk about right here. And when you read these questions and answers, it's going to tell you, but let's go over it. Let's do it. Let's just do it. Where we at? Who is actually responsible for making the necessary notifications to the individual or the consular officer? Answer: the responsibility for consular notification, whether in the case of an arrest or detention, a guardianship, or a death, lies with what are generally called competent authorities in the relevant international agreements. For the United States, this term is understood to mean those officials, whether federal, state, or local, who are responsible for legal action affecting the foreign national and who are competent within their legal authorities to give the notification required. This interpretation makes sense as a practical matter. Compliance with the notification requirements works best when it is assumed by those government officials closest to the foreign national situation and with direct responsibility for it. So when you contact the police station where the national is being detained, you're supposed to raise the issue of consular notification and access. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Greetings. I am Lamont Maurice L. I'm calling on behalf of the Consulate General of Morocco at the Maryland State Republic or at the District of Columbia Republic in regards to a foreign national that you all have detained. And I need to speak to a supervisor who is competent in consular notification and access. And guess what they're going to say? Please hold. That's the language. Look, next question. Who is responsible for notifying the consular officers of arrests and detentions? The law enforcement officers who actually make the arrests or who assumes responsibility for the foreign national's detention normally should provide the foreign national with the required consular notification information, which they don't, and make any required notification to the foreign national's consular officers unless a relevant implementing statute, regulation, or instruction provides for a different procedure, or if the person's foreign nationality is not known and cannot be determined at the time of arrest. For example, a jurisdiction might provide for the arresting officer to give the detainee consular information and for a different officer to notify the consulate. If the person's foreign nationality is not known at the time of arrest, but becomes known later, it will be necessary to complete consular notification procedures at that time. This may mean that the responsibility for the procedures would have to be assumed by someone other than the arresting officer. For example, a corrections officer, judicial officer, etc. This is the language that we're to be speaking when we go to their venue that they call courts, and we want to speak on behalf, not represent, because we cannot represent any animate human. We can only speak on their behalf. When speaking on behalf of the national for the protection of his treaty rights and interests, we would say yes. Well, first, we would, if it's a hearing dealing with habeas corpus that was issued by a consular court or a consul, then under consular jurisdiction, the habeas corpus would be filed, then recorded, and then you would have obtained the certified copy of the writ of habeas corpus like this. Let me show you an example. Habeas corpus cases. Right here. This would be an example of a writ of habeas corpus. Okay, it's taking too long to load. All of them are. And you would get a certified copy of it, and then you would go, then this part of the treaty takes place, Article 4. So you would go with a signal, i.e. your flag. And if it's a convoy, right here, and if the commander of a ship of war of either party shall have other ships under his convoy, that's security, the declaration of the commander shall alone be sufficient to exempt any of them from examination. That's questioning. So the declaration will come in the form of the certified copy of the writ of habeas corpus if it's dealing with captivity of a national. So Article 4 would be exercised, Article 6 would be exercised, and it will come by authority of Article 20, which is consular jurisdiction. This is called treaty enforcement for writ of habeas corpus for the release of our national. Article 4, 6, and 20. If it's dealing with another issue, you will have to read the treaty. Now, let's just say, for an example, if they say, well, we're not doing it, we ain't releasing them, so what? All right. Article 24 says, if any differences shall arise by either party infringing on any of the articles of this treaty, peace and harmony shall remain notwithstanding in the fullest force. So you still have to keep your peace until a friendly application shall be made for an arrangement. So that means you have to look up arrangement, you have to look up application, look up the term friendly, make sure you know those terms, and then move forward or proceed to attempt to settle outside of bringing or going to arms or resorting to arms, which is war. So that means you'll go over their head. If it was a policy enforcer at DC, the District of Columbia, then you will go to the chief of police and the mayor, and you will go with your convoy. Your convoy will consist of mufti, which is the security, and cameras, which is the media, your media, and recording devices, meaning the security would have body cameras on them, and at least one flag bearer. And that's how you will go. And an example of that, we demonstrated not too long ago here at our territory. Where is it? Right here, when we made the special visitation at the Prince George's County Sheriff Department. That's an example of exercising consular jurisdiction for treaty enforcement, and it ended peaceably. We got the brothers, Lieutenant Colonel John D.B. Carr. We have his contact information. In an event that there is a dispute or controversy between a Moor and a U.S. citizen at the Prince George's County territory, Maryland Republic territory. Not in, at, because that's a jurisdiction. Because we all know we're in Morocco.
Right.
So that's how you would do it. And that takes practice. It takes study, because when you're brought before the opposition or any of the people that are working for the opposition, you have to speak with clearness and with power. It's called an intelligent tone. Doesn't mean an intelligent tone don't mean don't yell, you gotta whisper, talk polite. No, intelligent tone is the vibration of intelligence. Because I got loud with a few of them, and they didn't take offense because they were listening to what I was saying. Because it's not about emotion, it ain't about speaking from your feelings. The international community does not hear feelings, they hear intelligence. Islam. So
this is awesome information. I'm just looking through to see if there are any that you might want to address.
So we have to come into the understanding of the power that we've been looking for in everyone else has been ours. Let me take the screen share off.
Okay.
Did I do it right?
Yeah, there you are.
Okay, I just gotta click on this one. All right.
All right, there you are.
We have to come to the realization that the power's been all ours this whole time. We also have to come to the realization that we can't use their instruments to claim a birthright or an inheritance. That instrument has to be created by us. We also have to understand that their those deeds that everybody think that is proof of ownership, that deed is color of law. I mean, color of title. When you go to the word fee, oh, too late already, guy. I would go back to the dictionary. When you go to the word fee in the Black's Law Dictionary, 5th edition, which is on page 553, you'll go under estates. And I believe it's the third paragraph, second or third paragraph. It'll say, I got the hardcover right here. Hold on. It'll say Black's Law Dictionary, page 553, fee. And yes, it is the third paragraph. It says the true meaning, the second sentence in the third paragraph. The true meaning of the word fee is the same as that of feud or fief. And in its original sense, it is taken in contradistinction to allodium, which latter, allodium, is defined as a man's own land, which he possesses merely in his own right without owing any rent or service to any superior. That's land tax, water tax, gas tax, electric tax, cable tax, internet tax, all of that. So that means when you went to settlement and closing, and you signed the deed, then signed the deed of trust, what actually was conveyed? If it was fee simple, nothing was conveyed. What? That's not title. That's the opposite of title. So nothing was bought because there was no gold and silver involved. Nothing was loaned because there was no gold and silver involved. And nothing was transferred because there's no title involved. And then the mortgage, the actual mortgage that you put up, the property as security, which is actually a dead pledge, is dead because, let's see, when they foreclose and they go to a foreclosed sale, what are they selling? Fee simple. That's not title. And then who's buying and what are they purchasing with? Gold and silver. All of this is a distraction. Color. It's the appearance without the substance. There was no property bought at a foreclosure sale. All of what's going on is called escheat operations. They're practicing escheat operations. And they're claiming to be FOFR. Look up FOFR. That's FEOFFOR on page 557 of the Black's Law Dictionary, 5th edition. They're claiming to be FOFR because they're making in the deed and in the deed of trust, they're making your estate a fofment, which is also defined in on page 557 of the Black's Law 5th edition. And a fofment is a gift. And a gift is when you give up property freely without compensation. That's what they're saying you're doing. That's why when they practice the eviction process, because they're not enforcing nothing, they'll wait a few weeks after you've left the property. They'll construe it to be abandoned, even though they forced you out by force of arms, and they'll slap a sticker on the front door that says, notice, this property is determined to be vacant and or abandoned. Not foreclosed, because there was no foreclosure. There was no title. There was no money borrowed. There was no money paid. Nothing happened. It was all colorable. However, by us not rebutting or answering, it stands because that's due process of law. Notice an opportunity to be heard.
Another thing that people don't realize is that even if the property was quote unquote foreclosed and they left the property and say they've been in the property for 15, 20 years, so they paid into this mortgage. Then somebody goes at an auction, a foreclosure sale, so-called foreclosure sale, and they purchase the property, say, because it was back taxes or whatever, and maybe it was paid off. But there's always a lot of times there's funds left over that sit there for a number of years that the people don't know that they can, even if they don't go through the other process, that their funds that they put in, that if they don't know to go back and get it, that eventually the state will take it And that's how they begin to fill their coffers on all the people whose properties were foreclosed. And then the difference between what they owed and what was actually the value, what they already put in it, like I guess what they had is equity. Equity may be thousands, millions, not thousands, millions of dollars of equity go to the state after maybe a year to 5 years, depending on the statutes of the state, because nobody comes back to claim it.